Hey everyone, welcome back for session 3. I hope that session 1 and 2 offered you a little tidbit, maybe something you could take away from it that might get you a little more focused, maybe get you a little farther down the path in whatever your goals are. If it's your first session, thank you very much for joining us, taking 10 minutes of your life to listen to me and see if I can help you out in any way. My name is Jason Hutchinson. I'm the State Referee Administrator for the state of Idaho. My little disclaimer real quick before we dive in, I am not a certified trainer. I am not a certified doctor, licensed physician. I'm just a referee that's been at this for a while, had the opportunity to do some games at a pretty high level, and I'm just passing on some information from one referee to another. So please take it for what it is. Hopefully it helps you. But if you really have a situation or you're injured or something like that, please consult a physician and make sure you don't end up in a bad situation. So tonight, session 3, we are talking about things that are pretty focused directly to being a center referee. So what type of training can help you as a center referee? What resources are available? What might be the requirements to go up to a regional referee level? So that's where we're going to go. Let's jump right in. Some of the documents and the information we're going to reference tonight can be found at the Idaho State Referee Committee's website, just idahoreferee.org. There is a resources tab there, and then on the resources tab, there is a training and fitness section. So there's some fantastic training tips from Referee 6 there. There's the FIFA interval information from US Soccer, and more things to find there. So I wanted to get that up on the screen just so you have it. There is information there. There's YouTube channels. There's so much information out there in the referee world. So please pick and choose what works best for you, and really whatever helps you focus on that why that you've identified and that plan, that regiment you put together, and really help get you some of the results you're looking for this year. So everyone wants to talk about physical training. How do I run better? How do I get in better shape? How do I get more fit? There's a big side to this of mental training. So you can be the fittest person in the world, but you've got to be able to train your mind to be able to regurgitate the law, to be able to pick out that language, pick out that situation, pick out that law that applies to the situation. And that's where you really get more credibility. If it's in the heat of the battle and something just happened and there's a player or a coach or someone who's frustrated or doesn't agree with your call, if you can step right up to them and quote the law and be accurate, have the FIFA considerations, have everything right at the tip of your tongue, that's really going to go a long ways in making you a credible referee. So some of the things I'm going to talk about real quick are ways you can bring some mental training into your physical training and start to partner them together. So the first thing I want to talk about is as you run. So you're doing interval training, you're running a mile, you're running 5 miles, whatever you're doing, get used to focusing on the law, keeping your mental edge sharp while you're physically training. One, you'll stop thinking about how tired you are or how much farther you have to go or how much longer you're going to run because you're focusing on something different. But if you can recite all 17 laws, or you can start working through what the considerations are for handball or what the considerations are in a challenge while you're training, that's going to make it so much more beneficial to you, because you're training your mind that when you're fatigued in the 70th, the 80th, the 85th minute of a match and something happens, it's just second nature for you while you're training, while you're fatigued, to be able to pull those tidbits right out of the law and be able to offer them to a player, offer them to a coach, and add that credibility. So while you're training, while you're running, while you're fatiguing yourself, keep that mental edge sharp. So make some flashcards. If you can't recite all 17 laws right now, make a few flashcards and just have them as the laws of the game so that you start getting more comfortable with them. Or make flashcards just for the specific sections of the considerations. So like I mentioned, like handball, so that you can start working through those while you train, and so you're getting even more out of that physical training. So that's my first recommendation. Really work on the mental side of the game before you're in the game. So while you're training, train both your mind and your body together. The other thing to mention here, and a lot of referees will do this, so maybe you do this even while you're warming up before a game or while you're training, but role play through some situations. We've all been in situations where we have some players that are tough individuals to work with, or we know a coach is, just not a very happy person or doesn't really like to get along with referees. So start role playing through your head. Hey, if he says this or she says this, I'm going to say this, or this is how I'm going to handle this situation. Because like I said before, when you're fatigued and it's hot, maybe at our youth tournament, it's your second or third game of the day, you're not as mentally sharp then as you are right now training. So start role playing through some of these things, or the warm ups before the game. Start role playing so that when something happens, you're already prepared. Mentally, you've already figured out what you're going to say. It'll prevent you from saying something incorrect. It'll prevent you from maybe putting your foot in your mouth and saying something you shouldn't. I've done that. We've all done that. So mental preparation is just as important as physical preparation when it comes to being a referee. Being a referee on a field is truly an art form. You need to find a way to get 22 players to work with you, get along, produce this beautiful sport of soccer, even though they are 100% at odds with each other and they want to do everything they can to try to triumph in the situation. It's your job to get everyone to work together. And that is an art, 100% an art. So it's more than just physical. Think about your mental preparation as well. But let's talk about physical training for a second. So really, we see this as there's 3 different kinds of training. And you can get lots of input from lots of people that are going to tell you there's so many other things to this. And I agree with them. But for the sake of this video and really keeping these hard hitting and short and just getting you some value, we're going to break it down to 3 types of training that really will help you focus on being a center referee. Those 3 are interval training, mid-range training, and endurance training. As you can see, all 3 of these involve running. So as a referee, running is a necessary evil. It's something we do. We better get better at it. So there are lots of other things you can do to keep your core strength up, keep your overall fitness up, even train. We talked about in the first video, cycling, rowing, getting away from that constant collision in your joints and knees and back. But when it comes down to it, we do need to train for the position. So interval training, mid-range training, and endurance training. So interval training is exactly that. So you can come up with your own interval regiment, or US Soccer has put out the fitness test. FIFA has put out the fitness test. You can download the audio file that is the beeps for whether it's the 17-second run, 20-second recovery, or it's the 17-second run, 24-second recovery, or whatever test you want to do. You can download that audio file, go to your neighborhood track, and run the fitness test. So you're going to run 20 laps, which is going to be, 10 laps, which is 40 intervals, and it's going to be a good workout. But with warm-up, cool-down, stretch, and everything, it's going to be maybe 40 minutes. The actual intervals run about 25 minutes. So simply just getting out and doing the interval test will help you. It will increase your overall fitness. Mid-range running. So this is where you're going to increase your speed a little bit, but you're really going to dial in on your technique while you're running to make sure you're a more efficient, smoother, better runner. And then finally, the endurance running is where you're just going more for distance. So you're getting through those mental blocks, getting yourself more comfortable, pushing through, and making sure that you can finish a match. So in regards to mid-range, my recommendation is go out and run 1 mile for time. So you're going to try to run it as fast as you can. You still need to be able to finish it. Don't ever do a workout where you can't finish the workout. You have to walk in the middle. So if you're doing that, you're going too hard. You have to be able to finish the distance without stopping your run. Likewise with the endurance one we're going to talk about. So go out and run 1 mile for time. If you don't know what that distance is, if you have a high school track there, the track is most likely 400 meters. 1 mile is 1,600 meters, so it's 4 laps. So how quickly can you run 4 laps? Whatever your time is, add 30 to 45 seconds to that, and that's what your training time is going to be. So what you're doing is you're setting the market to what your 100% is. If I go all out, this is my time, and now I'm going to back it off just a little bit. So you're going to drop down to that 80, 75% area where you can train. Now, you're not dropping all the way down to 60% because you still want to increase that level and train yourself to perform higher. So you're going to keep it at a mid-range where it's still going to push you. But if you go out and run it for time and you run a 7.5 minute mile, it's a good mile. So now we're going to go back and we're going to figure out what the pace is to run an 8-minute mile. So there's some basic math you can do. If it's an 8-minute mile, you break that into 4 parts. That means it's 2 minutes. So every lap on the track is 2 minutes. So you're running 120-second laps. Do 4 of those laps, there's your 8-minute mile. So if you scale it back a little bit and then you train at that, then if it seems easy, you can start to bump it up. But you don't want to be training at 100% because you'll start to wear your body out. You want to be able to show up day after day. And you want to be able to follow through with this plan and this regiment you built. So that's mid-range. Endurance training is exactly that. So a good range that I've always trained at is 5 miles. You can do more. I wouldn't necessarily do less for endurance because 5 miles is kind of that, maybe a 10K range, maybe a 6.2 mile. But what you're going to do is you're going to go out and you're going to run it. And same thing, you can't stop. So pick a pace that you can complete. You want to run it for time, so you want to be, the best level, the best performance you can, but you can't stop. So once you figure out what that is, if you have a watch like a Nike watch, an Apple Watch, a Garmin, whatever you have that'll tell you what your pace is, that's ideal. So when you run that 5 miles for time, look at what your pace is for that and take 15 seconds off of it. And that's what you want to start training at. So you want to just 15 seconds off your mile pace. Pick up that pace just a little bit more. So every 2 weeks, you want to take 15 seconds off that pace. So with the mile, we were adding time to slow us down just a little bit. And on this one, we're actually every couple of weeks going to take 15 seconds off our pace because we should be getting more fit as we're doing this. So our endurance should go up. We're stretching, we're recovering. So every couple weeks, if you take 15 seconds off your pace, that's all you're taking off, over a 5 mile time, that's a minute and a quarter, minute and a half off. And so if you're running a 40-minute 5 mile block, then every couple weeks it's dropping down a minute or two. So over the course of a month or 6 months, you could take that down to a very, very competitive time. So incrementally, but we're going to look at interval training. We're going to look at mid-range running, which is just running a mile for time and then using that mile time to train at a slightly slower pace. And then endurance running, which is going that full 5 miles. So what's the difference between preseason training and training during the season? So in preseason training, I'm saying it preseason because we're not working matches. So we have 7 days a week we can play with. So really what I would do is build out a regimen. So when you run for time, make sure you're not running back-to-back days. So that first week when you're setting what your mile time is and setting what your endurance time is, give yourself a day or two in between so you're letting your body recover because you should be pushing your body to get that time. So then the next day, do a rest and recover day. But once you have those times set, just build a regimen where you do interval training one day, mid-range the next day, endurance running the next day, and then day 4 is always a warm-up, stretch, recover, get as much of that tension, roll stick, foam roller, whatever you need to do, but let your muscles relax and really try to work as much circulation back into them to let them recover. So it's a 4-day regimen and you're just repeating it over and over again. If you're training during the season, so I'm going to put this as you're refereeing maybe Friday evening and then Saturday and Sunday or something. It's a weekend type setup. So that's going to give you Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday that you're not reffing. So my recommendation is going to be is Monday is always a rest and recover day because you just reffed all weekend. So do a little warm up, get your muscles warm, do a stretch, do a foam roll, do what you can to get them recovered. Tuesday, do a mid-range run. Wednesday, do your endurance run or do an interval run. You can swap it out because we're only running 2 days. And then Thursday, do another rest and recover day. Roll your legs back out. Get some fluidity back in those muscles because you're going back into another weekend where you're going to be reffing again. So do a couple training days. Don't just take 4 days off during the week. Don't try to go out and do a hard train on a Monday right after you got done. If you did a youth tournament, maybe you worked 5-6 games in a couple days. Your muscles are really taxed. Don't sit on the couch and do nothing. Get up, warm up, stretch, get some recovery. But you're not going to work out every day. Your muscles need a chance to recover. You're going to end up injured. You're going to end up, not being able to perform at 100%. So we're human. We're not robots. During the season, we definitely need to manage ourselves, make sure we're not getting injured. So build in a couple of those rest and recover days, but don't let your training go. You still need to be training. We don't get fit reffing soccer games. Let me say that again. You don't get fit reffing soccer games. You need to train. So if you're wanting to take your game to the next level, there is a certain part of reffing games going through the motions, going through, match situations that's going to make you better. But you need to be training. Training is really going to get you exponentially better results and get you where you want to go way more than reffing 15 games a week. Your body's going to plateau. It's going to get used to the workout. You're going to walk, which is fine. We do walk as a referee some points in the game. But if you're really wanting to train and get fit, that's training. That's not reffing. So that's what I've got for this one. I hope this helps you. I wish you the best. 3 different types of training: interval training, mid-range training, endurance training, but do not forget the mental aspect of it. As you're running that mile, as you're running that 5 mile, recite the laws of the game, recite the considerations, role play through situations of how you're going to deal with players, but make sure you're keeping your mind sharp when you're fatigued, and that will go a long way as a referee. So see you out there. Hope you're all well. Be safe, and we'll talk soon.